Save the Semantics, episode 238. It is December 5th, 2023. My name is Myro. This is the podcast where I ramble on for a bit about some shit. Recording this early in the week, which I haven't done in quite some time. But I found the opportunity to do so. So I wanted to take advantage of it, talk about some shit. Mostly catch up on some basketball, some in-season tournament madness. Oh, shit. Get into a little bit of that. And sort of my expectations going forward with the tournament and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of wanted to do a quick wrap up. So yesterday we had two games. We had the Celtics and the Pacers, and then we had the Pelicans and the Kings. I was able to catch a good chunk of the Pacers and Celtics game, especially on the second half of that game, and it was great. It was great. It was very much, like people were saying, playoff atmosphere. It had that vibe. It was good, man. It was a great game. Pacers pulled it off toward the end. Halliburton was like cooking. There's like a sequence that was very, very much stands out in my mind of like it was like a 9-0 sequence, 9-0 run, that I thought was very fun. And they took away with it, man. The young team, they came through, and they showed up. They showed up on this kind of stage, not the biggest stage by any means, but something, I think it seems like a good thing going forward. Seems like a neat idea. Again, I was one of those skeptics. Honestly, I really just I didn't even really think about it. Honestly, I was like, I'll think about it when we get there. I didn't even question it too much. I was sort of I don't know, maybe concerned about what it could be, the potential of what this could be. I was mostly worried about the fact that this might add additional games on the schedule. That was really the biggest concern that I had, because I was like, damn, we already got 82 games. That's a lot. So adding even more was not good, but really that wasn't it at all. It's just making certain games into tournament games. And then I think we'll see how it goes down in Vegas. Kind of those three games, right? The semifinal games, and then obviously the championship. We'll see how those pan out. I really don't it's cool. I think that it's not quite to the same level as as playoff games, because neither team would, it'll just be dependent on which fan base is going to have the bigger presence in Vegas, but technically there's not really a home court advantage, right? So that kind of makes it a little bit more interesting, but it could take away a little bit of kind of that playoff atmosphere, where if you are playing on home court of one of the teams, there's going to be a significant there's just a certain bias, or not bias, but the home team is going to have that in their favor. And I think that does make things a little bit more exciting. That kind of throws a wrench into the mix of things. But we'll see. I know that for tournament, for college tournament games, a lot of them are not played at any home court. They're played sort of at a neutral site, right? March Madness is very much like that, where games are not played in the home stadiums of any of the teams, right? They're played in just different arenas, where neither team necessarily has an advantage in that regard, a home court advantage, right? So I guess you could argue that it's in the style of that, but it'll be interesting to kind of see how that pans out. People are noting that the atmosphere, the vibe of the game was very similar to a freaking a college tournament game, right? And I can kind of see that a little bit. It's a little different because, one, it's the NBA. I'm not super familiar with college basketball. Like, you know, I've watched a good amount of, not a good amount, I've watched some college basketball, but not really enough to really gauge how it feels. But based on tournament games, whatever, I have a little sense of what they kind of mean by that in terms of the excitement and everything like that. So that's cool. That's like a cool little, I don't know, little twist in things. But anyways, I think for the most part the tournament games, the IST has been pretty successful. Kind of drumming up some interest earlier on in the season and whatnot. I'm like I think another reason why I was kind of skeptical about the whole thing was because, like, one, it's like I'm not a casual. I am a casual fan, but I'm also not. Like, I'm casual to the point where I don't care so much about the advanced statistics and what players are averaging. I know who the players are, and I know, like, their records and shit like that, like kind of surface level things. But I'm not casual to this extent where it's like I don't know teams or I don't really know players or whatever the hell, you know what I mean? But I'm like semi-casual, but I have League Pass. You know what I mean? It's like I'm paying attention quite a lot to the games earlier on in the season than most people. So when I was thinking about the tournament and me sort of having my doubts and kind of being skeptical about it, is because it's like I wasn't really understanding the reasoning behind it. It's like, why do we need to have this necessarily? But based on what people have said, and it's something that I didn't really consider a whole lot because I'm very much in my own bubble when it comes to just consuming basketball. But it's like during this stretch of time, during this period in the fall, earlier on in the season, the NFL is still going strong. And it's like those are going to essentially kind of take up the ratings or whatever. That's kind of the argument there. And, there's like other stuff that, NBA broadcasts are essentially competing with. So, as sort of an incentive, let's turn these into something else, right? That's kind of Adam Silver's whole spiel. And I was like, oh, okay, I didn't even really consider it from that angle. I was just like, I was just questioning the thing because I was like, why is this even necessary? Like, I don't really get it too much. It's funny because I'm way more closely paying attention to the beginning of the season than I am towards like the middle of the season, honestly. This is something that I've talked about quite a lot before, but it's like I fall off, honestly, like mainly because I've just consumed so much basketball that I sort of need to like take a bit of a break. That kind of like what I've done for like the last few years, honestly. And so I'm just not, I don't fit the demographic of someone who isn't necessarily is like, ooh, in tournament. Like, it's not something that I'm not part of that. Like, I'm not part of that group. Is like not like a super casual fan, right? I don't fall under that category. So that this kind of appeals much more to that crowd, maybe a little bit more. But also it just adds on a bit more intensity and level of just kind of more stakes in these situations. So I don't know. It's cool. No, it seems like it's been working really well, and that's pretty exciting. That first game was fantastic. It was really fun, and it was cool seeing this kind of up and coming team, and Halliburton balling out. It was really good. It was very entertaining. I watched pretty much the majority, honestly, of like the Pelicans and the Kings game, and it was all right. It was pretty good. The first quarter was honestly probably the most exciting part of the game, where it was like the Kings went up like 15 points or something like that super early on, and then the New Orleans just came storming back, and then almost like tied it like at the end of the first quarter, and so that was really exciting. I think the Pelicans are one of the most they're the quintessential like question mark team. It's like if they're healthy, they could be like they could be up there. You know what I mean? There was this conversation last year. I remember talking about that when they were like the number one seed for like a very short and brief period. It was like this team is something, man, and it's gonna continue to be one of those, just one of those kind of open, I don't know, just one of those like things where it's like, can they stay healthy? That's really what it comes down to, because when they are healthy, they look like one of the best teams in the league, like up there. Just like it's not really that much of a question, honestly. It's like because they have proven themselves to appear that way. You know what I mean? So, because they have the personnel, like they have an incredibly just wide range of players. They have the defensive prowess, they have the scorers, right, and they have like the all-stars. It's just like Zion staying healthy, really. It's kind of the big one. Zion and like CJ McCollum and then Brandon Ingram, like if they're all able to really stay healthy and just be kind of cohesive, like I really would like to see them continue to stay healthy and succeed, because I think this team has like the biggest potential, really, honestly, out of any of like the quote unquote up and coming teams, and they've been together for quite a while now, so they have that kind of cohesion and continuity going on. So I would really like to see this team have some level of success, because I think they're one of the most exciting teams in the league, really. I think they just have the talent to really support some kind of sustained success. They can really go up against anybody, especially like in the Western Conference. Like, I could just see them being tough for really any team. So I would like to see them succeed, and I think it would be really nice. I think New Orleans fans in general, I think they're one of those fan bases that I think deserve to have some excitement, man, some level of success. And hopefully this one game and maybe this tournament, if they're able to continue to proceed forward and, you know, potentially make it to the final round, I think this could be somewhat of a showing, you know, coming out for them, and maybe that translates to potential playoff success and, you know, postseason success. So I'm kind of rooting for this team in a way, just because I like their team, I like their squad, and I like what they could potentially be as well. So it's just hoping that they can stay healthy, but it's just difficult, man. Just based on history, that really hasn't been the case of them being you know, healthy and shit. So it's just kind of like, it's just like it's just something that it's just you know, something that I just kind of keep an eye out. But good stuff for those guys, and I'm excited to kind of see where things go for them going forward. Right now, the Knicks and the Bucks are playing, and I'm gonna try to catch up with them. I think it's like third quarter now, so I'm gonna tune into them and see how it goes. The other game later tonight is going to be the Suns and the Lakers, and I'll probably be able to tune in and watch a bit more of that. Like, you know, maybe the full game, we'll see. You know, it's kind of you know, the matchup between like KD and LeBron and that sort of thing. So that could be fun to tune into. It's a very interesting scheduling for this week, just because like they're really heavily focusing on like the tournament. Like it's like three or like 4 of the, you know, 4 days out of this week is going to be dedicated to the tournament. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that kind of goes. Because like really the only game where all the other teams in the league are playing is tomorrow, right? That's like when the Warriors are playing. I don't think they're gonna play after. I don't think I'm not. I don't think they're gonna play after tomorrow, honestly. So it's gonna be a very laxed week for them. They're gonna be play. The Warriors are playing the Trailblazers, so I'm hoping that this will be some kind of a bounce back game. I hope that they're able to pull out, show something. Blazers have been playing kind of well though, honestly. Like they beat Indiana, they beat Cleveland, they lost to like the Jazz last time, and I was able to catch that game, and it was actually pretty exciting. Shaden Sharp, like a fucking posterizing Walker Kessler, like that shit was pretty tight. So I don't know, man. They like it. They're kind of a weird team. They're in like kind of in a rebuild mode right now, but they have a lot of veteran pieces too. So you just can't be. You can't play. I think it's gonna be. I think we should win that game, but I'm really not putting any of my fucking. I'm not putting anything, and I'm not putting any weight into it. You know what I mean? So I'm cautiously optimistic about tomorrow, but we really should come out swinging. Honestly, like after this like past week, like I know they beat the Clippers that one time, which is good, but they had 2 devastating losses as well. So I'm hoping that they can kind of show up tomorrow, because I think it really it'll be something. It really means something. So yeah, quick catch up on basketball stuff. I just really wanted to touch up on the in-season tournament stuff, because there's been a couple of pretty good games, some exciting stuff happening, and I had the time available to do it, so I just wanted to take the opportunity to talk about those things. I'll do another episode, or I guess like I'll do the second half of this episode later this weekend. So yeah, cutting to that. All right, it is December 10th, 2023, recording this on a Sunday. Second part of this week's episode. It's been a nice little week. It's been a nice little weekend as well. Just enjoying myself this Sunday, catching up on some errands and whatnot. But yeah, it's been pretty good for the most part. This week is sort of a continuation of last week in the terms of me catching up on some things and doing things that I haven't been able to do in a while. So that's been nice. And other than that, it's been relatively quiet, which is good. And also can be a little frustrating at times, especially for someone like myself who enjoys the calm of things and enjoys when things are mellow, but also kind of craves a little bit of excitement, you know what I mean? Just like some little speckles here and there, so, but that's generally been kind of the status of my day-to-day, my week-to-week. Do a quick catch-up. The NBA IST in-season tournament ended yesterday. I caught the first half of Pacers-Lakers and did not watch the second half. Lakers ended up winning, which probably disappoints the majority of the NBA outside of LA. So, but it seems that this is something that's going to continue to develop and continue to be sort of a staple of seasons to come. Again, I talked last time a lot about things that they can do to sort of improve the tournament in general, whether it's maybe shaking up how the point differential is taken into account for standings, or whether it's more beneficial to expand the number of games in sort of the group stage. I think there's ways that things can be improved, ways that it can sort of be a better experience for everybody. But as a first time sort of inaugural IST, it turned out pretty well. Obviously not the outcome we wanted. I mean, obviously, for us, this was Warriors fans. We weren't even really, we were in it, and then we got, essentially eliminated by the Kings. But I think that there's definitely more that can be done to just generally improve the experience. I also think that it would be cool to have further rounds, like further knockout rounds, to kind of build up to the championship. I think that directly going, because it was, quarterfinals, semifinals, then finals, right? I think if there was like a round of 16 or something like that, I think that would make it pretty exciting. One, it adds more teams to the conversation, so it feels like a much more league-wide competition. Because it was really what, 8 teams that made it to the tournament, and I feel like that's kind of limiting, and it's also not very indicative of how well the teams performed. There's also the fact that these games, some of the games in the group stages came sort of at the expense of teams that were playing like back-to-backs. Like maybe the tournament game came before another game. So if there's a way to maybe reduce that, or just kind of get rid of that, just get rid of back-to-backs if there is already a tournament game in one of those in the schedule, like I think it just would make the experience better. It sort of builds up anticipation for each game. Obviously, I know there's more logistics and everything like that needs to be taken into account, and it's way more difficult for sure. I don't, I can't imagine the amount of work that it takes to building out a schedule, but I think there are a lot of kinks that could be worked out. But overall, cool experience. There's some really good games throughout, and I think there's some anticipation moving forward that this will improve, and I think that more teams will potentially want to be competitive during this period earlier on in the season, where it's not as, there's not as much intensity, or there's not as much focus on improving and getting, or trying to essentially secure a playoff position, right? This is like there is still the incentive to win games, because the games do count towards the record, but I think that obviously the attention will always be much more focused toward the end of the season, when the standings truly matter. But I think there's still some incentives that can be drawn here, whether it's like payout money and shit like that, general kind of playoff-esque experience, especially for teams like the Pacers, right? I think that can build up, and I think that could add a lot of important it's kind of like a stepping stone for them to further develop into a better team, right? So I think that you could there's a lot of takeaways that you can get from this whole experiment. So yeah, IST turned out to be pretty good. This past week, I've been playing a good amount of 13 Sentinels. I've really kind of dove back into it and have been pretty engaged with the game and the story. It's been a really good experience. It's been really fun. I really enjoy leveraging like the kind of the visual story aspect of the game with the the combat section of the game, the more the SRPG section. I think it's just very fun to kind of switch back and forth, in doing so. Like I mentioned before, it's easy. You could technically just do the entire story all at once, or you could do the combat section all at once. But I think balancing it out, makes for a much more, it just makes much more for like a, I don't know, cohesive experience. And I also should mention, you technically can't do the battle. I want to correct that. You actually can't do the entire battle section all at once, because there's actually some road barriers, or there's some like story barriers that you need to complete in order to progress the battle, battle chapters, if you want to call them that. So there is that as well. So I think that you kind of do need to find a way to work through the story in order to progress. But yeah, it's just been fun. I feel the combat and the strategy behind it, like, it's not super complex, but it is very satisfying in terms of like placing your units into the right positions. Certain units focus on kind of short range attacks, or like, in close combat. Others focus on kind of long range combat. So there's a lot of variety in trying to like find a really good setup. If you combine certain characters on like sort of the same squad, there's like additional like passive abilities that you receive from that. A lot of it is kind of like things that I am familiar with in like Fire Emblem and stuff. I think Fire Emblem is definitely a lot more complex, because there's, in kind of a grid-based battle system, you need to be a lot more aware of just positioning, the abilities of characters. I think you are much more vulnerable if you, as a unit in Fire Emblem, you are much more vulnerable. So you can't really like rush out to attack. I think with the current play style that I have, there's certain characters that I think have a bit more durability and are able to, kind of, you could put them into positions where they can get hit. Like certain units to have sort of a bit more of like a tank ability. So I think that you can kind of do that. And also there's like an easy mode as well. So if you really just want to focus on the story, you could probably do that as well. I'm playing on normal mode, and it's like perfect. It's like the perfect amount of difficulty. There are moments where I'm like, oh shit, this could actually get kind of, this could actually get a little difficult. But I've never like died. I've never like failed a mission or anything like that. So the balance in the combat is like perfect. I also like the way that you kind of upgrade the characters. It's a very like linear path of upgrading. Like it's really just, increasing the amount of like, the statistics and everything like that. But I just feel like it's done very well, and it's a very satisfying combat system, and I have a lot of fun with it. It's a perfect like complement to the story, where the story is very when you're kind of doing the visual novel section of the game, it's very much like you are listening to these storylines. You're oftentimes playing through the same kind of trajectory, and there's just like certain like prompts that you need to click in order to progress it. But yeah, the story is like, I think obviously many people have already said this, but the story is like incredible. It's one of the most fascinating stories that I've ever really consumed, both in any type of medium, really. Like a book or movie. No, like this is like really up there. Like it's so incredibly complex, like just the narratives, and it's like, what the fuck? Like there's more there. Like when you think you have it, when you think you kind of have an idea of where things are going, there's like another thing that pops up, and you're like, what the fuck does that, like, what does that mean? And you get kind of thrown for a loop. But somehow it kind of makes sense too. I'm like, based on whatever progression that they're using, it's like, it says that I'm like 50% of the way through the story, but it feels like I understand like little to nothing. Like I'm like, I don't know, am I lost? Like, do I need to like look up shit on this game after I fucking beat it? So I'm really trying to my best to be just like attentive to the things that are happening, because I don't want to lose track of details. I like reread kind of the plot summaries of events that have happened. Again, it's like a nice little feature that the game provides, a nice quality of life feature. And yeah, it's a mystery. It's just a lot of things. It's kind of like it's a little bit of like a choose your own adventure too. You could argue that. I think like eventually the stories all lead to the same place, and the same conclusion, but you know how you progress the story and how the decisions that you make, which characters you choose, that's kind of up to you, and how you know how you want to kind of work through it. So it's not in that sense it's not super like linear. I mean, the story itself is not linear at all, right? The events that occur is not at all like in chronological order, but the just kind of the my understanding is that it's all going to lead to kind of like this, you know, climax or focal point. And it's going to make sense at some point in terms of what the hell is actually going on in this game, right? So it's fun, man. It's a lot of fun. It's really, it's something that you do need to be kind of engaged to, like, you know, you got to really pay attention to what's happening and stuff. But it's really worthwhile in my opinion. I think it's been one of the more rewarding experiences that I've had with a video game in quite some time. Anyways, for the rest of today, I'm probably gonna again probably catch up on more on 13 Sentinels and shit. Maybe I'll watch some stuff. Maybe I'll watch some more television, some TV shows. Wow. And I found, and I haven't really done this quite a lot, but I found that I've enjoyed going to the gym at night as opposed to going in like the evening after work. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go to the gym later tonight, see how I feel about it. I think it's nice, and then it kind of like leads into me feeling tired, excuse me, tuckered out, and that makes me feel a little bit more sleepy and go to bed a little easier. So I think there's that added benefit as well. I don't know, just a little tidbit. It's a little feeling that I've kind of had. Anyways, anything else? Is there anything else that I want to catch up on? I feel like I'm always missing something, and then the next time I record, whether it's like in a few days or next weekend, I'm like, fuck, dude, I should have talked about that. But yeah, I think that's it for today and this week. Thanks for listening. This has been Save the Semantics, signing off.